Okay, just preparing it for YouTube. Thank you, Carol, for the reminder. We'll have a look for the other one afterwards. Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm just launching it, as they say. Everyone found food in the shops. Plenty of food. I heard there's certain stores that are open 24 hours a day. 24 hours you can shop for Pesach. Now there's a thought.
I'm not going to get up in the middle of the night and go shopping.
I'll tell you the truth. The truth is that I'm probably going to go not tonight, but tomorrow night, probably at 11, 12 o'clock, because you avoid the crowds.
Oh, no, they'll be there then.
You think so?
I went early in the morning to avoid the crowd.
They put in a request. It's so bloody good.
A bit of background noise from somebody. Okay, it looks like we're live on YouTube. Who's got the background? Who's got another phone on or device? Thank you. Okay, Richard's coming on. All right, let me just check to make sure we are on YouTube before we start.
Live on YouTube.
Yeah, we are. Okay, we are on YouTube now. Okay, there's no background. Okay. So I think we're about ready. I think it's open. So I'm going to make a start. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Before we begin, have I muted everyone? I can't. Okay.
No.
Got a bit of a migraine, so you'll excuse me. I'm not full of beans tonight. Just trying to get rid of a migraine. And I'm going to mute everyone. Nothing personal, just so that we don't have background noise. Okay. But before I do that, does anyone have any pressing questions or concerns about any aspect of the Seder before I share some insights? It's meant to be about insights, but before we do that, any questions about Seder night this year, anything else about Seder before we mute, and then we'll get going with a few lovely, beautiful, brief ideas to enhance and enrich your Seder. Okay, so then we'll make a start. Let me just mute all. Okay, that should do it. Okay, hopefully that's worked. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. It's the countdown is on, and we are looking forward, please God. It should be the opposite actually. Please God, you know, we can hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel and our own redemption is on its way. So let's start with a couple of ideas, okay? One of the most puzzling things that we say at the beginning of the Seder is we say, as we're all familiar with it, we start the Seder by inviting anyone who's hungry, let them come and eat. Anyone who's in need, let him come and conduct the Seder of Pesach. Now, it's a pretty strange way of opening the Seder night, right? After all, the door is closed. We're already sitting at the Seder, right? What type of invite? It's kind of like, making the simcha, and then afterwards you send out the invitation to somebody to come to your event, right? The event's already taken place. Nobody's going to come, right? Now it's true that in certain communities they have the tradition that as they stand in shul at the end of the service, that they walk past the bimah, they give a bang, and they say, anyone that would like to come to the Seder, come with me. But nonetheless, it still pretty much seems an afterthought. If it is meant to be a genuine invitation, what type of invitation is it? Okay, so let's try and see what exactly is going on, okay? So imagine the following. What happens to you when you are on a plane? Imagine the good old days when we were able to travel. So before takeoff, they play a safety video. And while your eyes may be watching it, you're actually not paying that much attention. You've seen it hundreds of times, and it doesn't seem very relevant. What are the chances of you needing to inflate your life jacket? Okay, I have to say it's only happened to me once. This statement, therefore, at the beginning of the Seder, when we make an invitation, anyone that wants to come and join me at the Seder, come and join me, even though the doors are shut. It's not really an invitation to your physical body. It's an invitation to your mind. It is an invitation to invite your entire being to take part in this vulnerable journey from enslavement through your personal, collective pain and suffering, all the way out of Egypt. We are meant to be seeing ourselves differently than the way that we entered. So it's a transformation that we are going to experience from the beginning of the Seder to the end, not just a physical journey through Egypt all the way out into the desert, but an emotional or psychological experience. And it's something that we're meant to tap into to this day. We read the story every single year, and we all know the story inside out. We all know the facts, we all know the information. So that's not the reason we are here, right? It's like this life jacket speech, if you can imagine it, on an airplane. We've been there, we've done it, right? We know the Psalter, we know the Manishtana, we know Avodim Hayinu, we know Dayenu, and we know the 10 plagues. The Seder is about, in reality, our revisiting our personal narrative through the lens of our historic Jewish narrative. It's a bit like turning your history into your personal biography. We all tell our personal story through telling the story of our people. It's about the evolution of the Jewish consciousness. It's about personal evolution. Where were we last year? Where are we today? Where was I last year? Where am I today? And where do I want to be in a year from now? And that's why we say, L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim. Next year, I'd like to be in a different place completely, in a rebuilt Jerusalem when I have the ultimate redemption. But the question is, when we say L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, how do I plan on getting there? So every year we begin with an invitation. Why the invitation? Because it's a time for us personally to reflect on the transformations that we've experienced. What experience have we gone through that have transformed our lives? What awareness has COVID-19 created for us all? It's a time when we say that invitation to reflect on the areas we are currently stuck in. What feelings and emotion we own. What happens to us when we are attacked by a feeling of insecurity, of not belonging, of trauma, or depression, or anger, or apathy? We all go through, and we've all gone through, every person during the COVID, our ups and our downs. We all get stuck, and we are all capable of the experience of the emotional and psychological freedom. And therefore, on the Seder night, we say, tonight we ask, where am I in my relationship with Judaism, with God? How do I see, and do I see how he is walking me through life? So that is really the invitation. It's an invitation to none other than ourselves. And it's a challenge as we challenge ourselves. That's the first idea, okay? Second idea, okay? What do we do? If you ask any kid what we do, okay, we do the Manishtana, but what we also do, right, is we break yachatz, right? Kadesh Urchatz, we start with Kiddush, then we wash our hands, then the master of the house washes his hands, and then we have then we have Urchatz, and then we have Yachatz, okay? We break the middle Matzah, and we say the entire Haggadah on that broken Matzah, okay? So why do we do that? Why do we break the Matzah, the middle Matzah? And it's once we've broken the middle Matzah that we recite the entire Haggadah, okay? So as a nation, we look for and celebrate generally what's whole, right? Think about our faith. When we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, please God, we've got to make sure that shofar doesn't have any cracks, no holes. When we look at the etrog has to be without any blemishes. When it comes to the menorah for Hanukkah, it has to be beautiful, right? And has to have pure oil, not impure oil. But yet tonight, on the Seder night, we have the courage to break out matzah, to discuss and search for the broken pieces. That's what we do. We take the broken matzah, we hide the afikomen, and we go searching for that broken piece. Because to be free, we must profess the courage to stop pretending that all is perfect. And that we don't need any help. We're completely self-sufficient, we're independent, we don't need any help from anyone or anything outside ourselves. And therefore on Seder night, we have the courage to be willing to admit that we are all deeply imperfect and we need each other to grow and to heal. And just like it doesn't humble me to admit that I need oxygen, right, outside of myself in order to be able to survive, and I need those little plants and fruits to nurture me, I should not feel ashamed to accept in life that I'm dependent and interdependent on other things outside myself. So therefore we have to cultivate our faith like our ancestors, like our grandparents, great-grandparents, and all the way back to our forefathers and matriarchs that went before us. And therefore we have to have the courage to say, it's all right. It's all right to be broken. It's all right not to be whole. It's all right to be reliant on others. I have to be willing, like my forefathers, to go out of my comfort zone and perhaps all the way out to a desert and gain the wisdom of our people and not stay smug with what I know or what I think I know. There's an amazing story which is called The Flawed Circle. Has anyone heard it? Anyone heard it before I tell it? Okay, The Flawed Circle. You'll look it up afterwards. It's by Alan Silverstein. Alan Silverstein died in 1999, and he was an American Jewish poet. He was a singer, songwriter, a cartoonist, a screenwriter, and he was the author of many children's books. And his books were translated into, I believe, something like 30 languages and sold over 20 million copies. Now, one of his moving tales is about a circle, and it's about a circle that was missing a piece, a large triangular wedge that had been cut out of it. And the circle in this story wants to be whole with nothing missing. And therefore, the story goes that the circle goes around the world looking for its missing piece. And because the circle was incomplete, it could only roll in the story very, very slowly. And as it rolled throughout the world, it went so slowly that it was able to admire the flowers along the way. It was able to chat to the butterflies who landed on its back. And he chatted with the worms he met along the way, and he was able to take in the warm sunshine. The circle was able to find lots of pieces, but none of those pieces that the circle found in the story were able to fit to be a good fit. Some were too big and some were too small. Some were too square, some were too pointy. So it left them all by the side of the road and kept on searching. Then, one day, apparently, according to the story, it found a piece that fit perfectly. It was so happy. Now it could be complete with nothing missing. The circle incorporated this missing piece into itself, and it began to roll again, right? Now, imagine, now it's whole, now it's a perfect circle. It was able to roll very, very fast, very smoothly. And it was going so fast that they no longer had time to take in the flowers, to talk to the worms, to appreciate the butterflies that landed on its back. So when the circle realized how the different world seemed when it rolled through it so quickly, it stopped, and it realized that despite the fact that it was now whole and it was able to go at great pace, the wholesomeness meant that it was missing out, and therefore it decided to leave the piece by the side of the road. And therefore this circle in the story that Alan Silverstein told felt it was happier when it was searching for the missing piece than actually having the missing piece. So therefore it put down the piece and left it on the side of the road and carried on its search happily. So in some strange way, I think, friends, we are all more whole in a way when we are incomplete. We can achieve much, much more when we realize we are still far from perfect. When we think we're perfect, we don't need anything, we don't need anyone, we don't look for advice, right? We're self-sufficient and we become arguably rather arrogant. Why is this night different? Because on this night, we searching, rather than for perfection, we search for imperfection. On every other night of the year, we look for perfection. This night, when we look for the Afikomen, it's a search for incompleteness, openness. And that is the key for this night, for us to be able to recognize our frailties, our faults in life, so that we are able to continue rolling on our journey through life and have a greater appreciation of that which is around us. And hopefully in that way, through recognizing and appreciating and celebrating our incompleteness, that will enable us to go on a search for wholesomeness in life. That's a beautiful idea. I love it. Alan Silverstein. Okay. So how many years ago was did we leave Egypt? Around 3,300, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure, around 3,330, something like that, okay? So we say every year that now we are slaves, and next year we should be in the land of Israel. Now we are slaves, next year we will be free. In 1937, when the handwriting was on the wall in Europe, right, there was no question, there was the dark cloud surrounded Europe, and there was a high probability of Hitler and Nazism destroying European Jewry, as it did. David Ben-Gurion, who later became the first Prime Minister of Israel, appeared before the Peel Commission to allow the Jews of Europe to immigrate to Palestine. Right? This was a last gasp attempt. Ben-Gurion pleaded with them, with a Peel Commission, to allow the Jews to be able to leave Europe, and this should be their freedom, their ability to escape the horrors that were facing European Jewry. So there were, at that time, 1937, there were loads of Arab attacks against the Jews, and the British, despite having the British mandate and the Balfour Declaration, they wanted to extricate themselves from this nutcracker of the Arab violence and Jewish pressure by establishing a commission to study the problem. And Lord Peel was its chairman, and this was right under the shadow of Hitler's rise in Germany, that England floated a trial balloon in the form of a partition plan, okay? And they came up, I don't need to go through it, many of you will be familiar, you've read up on it, about the Peel Commission report, and no one was happy, okay? The idea of dividing the promised land was nobody was happy. So Ben-Gurion had the opportunity to address the Peel Commission, and this is what he said, and it's got particular relevance to Seder night and Pesach. I'm sure you're wondering why I had to discuss that, okay? And this is what he said. I'm going to quote it word for word. 300 years ago, there came to the New World a boat, and its name was the Mayflower. The Mayflower's landing on Plymouth Rock was one of the great historical events in the history of England and in the history of America. But I would like to ask any Englishman, said Ben-Gurion, sitting here on this commission, what day did the Mayflower leave port? What date was it? Then he said, I'd like to ask the Americans. Do they know what date the Mayflower left port in England? How many people were on the boat? Who were their leaders? What kind of food did they eat on the boat? I can see you all know where I'm going. More than 3,300 years ago, said David Ben-Gurion, long before the Mayflower, our people left Egypt and every Jew in the world, wherever he is, knows what day they left. And he or she knows what food they ate. And we still eat that food, said Ben-Gurion, every anniversary. We know who our leaders were, and we know exactly how many Jews left the land. And we sat down and tell the story to our children and grandchildren in order to guarantee that it will never be forgotten. And we say our two slogans. Now we are enslaved, this is David Ben-Gurion, but next year we'll be a free people. Now we are behind the Soviet Union and their prison, and now we're in Germany where Hitler is destroying us. Now we're scattered throughout the world, but next year we'll be in Jerusalem. There'll come a day that will come home to the land of Israel. That is the nature of the Jewish people. Now, if anyone has studied David Ben-Gurion, they'll know that he was an ardent secularist. He wasn't religious by any stretch of the imagination, but there were certain basics that even Ben-Gurion understood well. And it is always deeply moving for observing a Seder, because after all the jokes about the boredom and the uncle who gets on our nerves, or the aunt and the horrible horseradish and the spilt wine and the endless dragging on of the search for the Afikomen, here we are, 3,300 odd years later, coming together on the very same night, retelling the story of our people. If we think about it, it's simply mind-blowing, because we've been through everything, every conceivable challenge, and the blessing life has to offer. We've touched the heavens and we've been to hell and back. Yet every single year, without interruption, Jews come together from around the world, around their Seder table, sharing the same story, eating the same food, singing the same songs, and arguing about the same ideas. And therefore, arguably, Ben-Gurion was right. There is a reason we are still here, going strong. For each of our children knows the food they ate and the day that they left. It's an extraordinary speech by Ben-Gurion and an insight by Rabbi Jacobson. And I think it's a beautiful idea to share with our children, or with our families, or just with ourselves. Okay, I think we've got time for one more idea. Let me just flick through and find one more for you. Okay. So, Matzah. Okay, everyone got the matzahs ready. So by the age of 15, we think we've got a 15-year-old, a 15 or a teenager, all think that they've got it figured out, right? They don't think there's anything that they've got to learn. Nobody can tell them anything. You ever tried to tell a teenager anything? They don't want to hear. They're rather arrogant, stuck up. They know everything. They're self-sufficient, independent. Nobody can tell them anything. Okay? And they have a certain view of the world, right? The world is very much black and white. This family or this person is good, and that one we need to stay away from. I don't have time for that person. I do have time for this person, right? And there's a certain way that they see the world. And that view, arguably, is something that it makes an impression on us when we're teenagers. And certain aspect, we get locked into it. And as we become older, it becomes our truth. We have a certain perception that we've grown up with. A way that we believe is life, and what we think of ourselves and what we think about others. So what's that going to do with the matzah? Why is the matzah the true food of freedom? So matzah, as opposed to bread, as we all know, we've heard it year in, year out, it's a humble food, right? We don't allow the matzah to rise, right? Matzah is the process of humbling. We keep pushing it down, humbling ourselves, not breaking ourselves, rather breaking our misinformed ego. The dough which allows it to pout itself and to rise is the ego. And therefore we push down on the matzah when it's being baked. If you ever see them baking by hand, and that is not to break the person, but it's to break our misinformed ego. And therefore it's a realization when we take the matzah in our hands that I don't know everything. What I think is simply that what I think is, it doesn't necessarily be it's true. I have to open my mind. I have to be open to fresh ideas, different perspectives. Maybe I don't know everything. Maybe there's still more for me to learn. Matzah is the gateway to freedom, right? And therefore, instead of us living in, I guess, self-fulfilled prophecies of reality, right? We let go and we become open to a new way of seeing things and of seeing the world. Maybe there are still things that we don't know. And the fact that we've always done something a certain way in our lives, and the fact that we've always had a certain idea and vision, be it about faith, about practice, about habits, about people, it doesn't mean it's necessarily true. And even at a mature age, we can still be open to fresh ideas. The story goes about the Impressionist artist Renoir. He said as follows: "I'm beginning to know how to paint. It has taken me," he said, "over 50 years to work to achieve this result, which is still far from complete." Now, Renoir said that statement, this is why it's telling, in 1913. Do you know how old he was? He was 72 years old. The artist, Renoir, at the age of 72, was already recognized universally as a master of his craft. He was well established, and he was considered by many to be the greatest living painter in France. And yet he knew the secret of not knowing, the secret of freedom. Okay, so that's the ideas that we are sharing this evening. I hope that it has been interesting for you. We'll take briefly questions. Apologies, I've still taking the Nurofen. It hasn't quite kicked in and worked yet. So we've shared quite a few ideas, and please God, I'm sure beforehand there will be messages going out. There is a video going out to share another idea with you. We'll allow questions if anyone's got any. 5 minutes of questions, and then you'll excuse me. I'm going to try and get rid of this headache. So anyone wants to put up their hand and I'll unmute them. If anyone's got any questions before we sign off for this evening. Questions about Seder? No? You've got it all. It's all in the bag. It's all in the Afrikomen bag, as we say in Woodside Park. Nothing? All sorted? Going once? Going twice? Miriam is asking a question, or she's giving a thumbs up. I'm not sure. I think it's a question, so I'm going to unmute her just in case. You have to unmute yourself. I'm asking you to unmute. I'm inviting you to unmute. Yeah. Try again. There you go.
First of all, I wish you a headache, Betty, or migraine.
Thank you.
I know how awful it is. Those
Thank
cool
you.
and stews are very good to put on your
Okay.
head.
I'll take it on board.
And if you're going to Kosher Kingdom, go early in the morning, not late at night. It's empty early in the morning.
Ah.
But I just wanted to thank you for the beautiful gift. I know I sent you a text, but I thought it was such a lovely idea how you sent that lovely Afrikaner bag and the serviettes, and it was so thoughtful and such a lovely, lovely idea with Gila's recipe and your lovely messages. So just wanted to say thank you for that. It was really, really special.
That's so kind. Thank you, Miriam. I have to tell you, it was something that as the months have rolled on, we've been trying to make a reality. The idea is that as much as we are on Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, and sending stuff out every week, not everyone picks it up. Not everyone is able to see it, but this was guaranteed, as long as the postman delivers, that it would get through everyone's door. So that was the idea, that there should be a presence, and hopefully it's something useful as well. Paul, you wanted to ask something before we sign off? Last question. I thought I did try to unmute you.
No, I was only trying to help because I couldn't unmute. I thought maybe nobody could unmute.
Okay.
I was only trying to say that cannot unmute. Sorry.
Okay.
Rabbi, I've got your site on next week. If I come to Shul at 7 o'clock on Shabbos morning, you're going to be reading out the names for the York site on Shabbos morning.
Yeah.
You are? Okay.
Yeah. The names are always read in the main minyan. If we've got a bar mitzvah minyan and the other minyan, then it's read in the main minyan. But yeah.
What time will Shul finish to get back in time?
So I'm going to get yes. So you're talking about the early birds.
Yes, the Shabbos. Yeah.
So it should finish before. It depends if you're on British summertime or GMT. For you, Miriam, who will be on GMT, and for Karen, who's definitely going to be on GMT, it will finish around 9 o'clock. For me, it will finish around 10 o'clock because I'm changing my clock before Shabbos. So I will be having a lay in bed to 8 o'clock in the morning because I'll be an hour ahead of you. And then we'll be finishing, it'll be within 2 hours, in and out. We have to get home to be able to have the last chametz meal, or at least to have a motzi with it for those that want it, and yeah, and then we'll be able to hopefully have a bit of a rest before the Seder night. Very, very exciting. Yeah. Any other questions before we go? Going once, going twice. Okay, so here's an opportunity. Oh, a reminder. Thank you, Elaine. So a reminder that this coming Friday, oh my gosh, tomorrow night we're recording. This coming Friday, David Berman with Sammy and myself, in other words, Woodside Park, will be on the US TV broadcast. I know you've got nothing to do Erev Shabbos this week. I think around 4 o'clock on US TV and Facebook, which is the recording for Kabbalat Shabbat, not the usual 2 p.m. They were trying to find which mugs would want to do, which shul would want to do the Shabbat of Erev Pesach. Woodside Park. Yeah, that's us. Okay, so we're doing it this week with guitar and everything. It'll be great. So we're looking forward to seeing everyone there, and look out for the video, and wishing everyone a kosher Pesach. Please let me know if there's anybody you know that for some reason is in need of help. That I'm sure it's covered by Woodside Park Cares, but if you do hear of anyone, please let us know. In the meantime, we're going to sign off, wishing everyone well, a kosher Pesach. Keep safe, keep well, look after yourselves, and please God, look forward to seeing you in person with the masks in the not too distant future. We won't recognize ourselves when we see ourselves without the masks, you know. There will still be, will always be, you'll go on holiday, you'll come back, you'll have, tan marks around your mask. It's going to be amazing. Who knows? Anyways, I'm sure, please God, in another year, all this madness, we said this last year, please God, in another year, is there a chance, Karen? Karen's my, you have a weather forecaster, I have my COVID forecaster. Next year, Pesach, maybe, will be out of all of this, some normality, Karen? Yes? No? No. Apparently not. I'm being told no. Maybe not next Pesach. Maybe the Pesach over after that. Okay, well, we always pray. Lashana Haba B'Yerushalayim. It doesn't just mean traveling to Jerusalem, but it means that, please God, we should be able to be in a rebuilt Jerusalem, a peaceful Jerusalem, a healthy Jerusalem. That's what we pray for the whole world. Look after yourselves. Keep safe.